My wife was cheating on me with her boss while I was working, but now that she realizes she was just being used, she wants to come back to me. I, 43 years old, have been living in Chicago for the last 2 years for work reasons. My wife, Jill, 39, and our 9-year-old son are in our hometown in Houston. Before the pandemic, I used to run a workshop with a friend while Jill worked as an executive. We didn't earn much, but it was manageable. We lived in our own house, which I inherited from my family. My parents retired early from their daily work and went to live in our farm, in the countryside, to lead a quiet life in the middle of nature. My father loads his truck every 2 weeks with all the dairy products, fruits, vegetables, and potatoes, according to the season, grown on his farm and sends them to us. So yes, we saved a lot there. Life was quiet. Bam! COVID came and we lost everything. Everyone stayed at home. There were no cars on the road and people sold their vehicles because they couldn't pay their mortgages. Our workshop suffered the same fate. We had to close it and cancel the lease because we couldn't pay the rent. Jill's company also closed and she lost her job. Our only hope was the grains, vegetables, and milk we received from my parents' farm. Yes, we had savings, but they were running out faster than we thought. The government and the local communities sponsored edibles and other essential products, saving people like us. When things started to open, I thought about getting a job because it was not possible to re-establish the workshop in that situation. But unfortunately for me, most of the workshops were permanently closed because the owners could not pay the mortgage. Those who were in operation did not hire new employees or any employees in general. The business was down and the owners themselves ran the show. The same happened with Jill. She did not get her job back either. After a lot of struggle and cold search, finally one of my distant cousins told me that there was a vacancy in his place of work. But that was in Chicago. It was a job in a car factory. The salary was good and I had no choice but to take this job. We almost had no savings and there was no hope of finding a job in Houston. I went to work, leaving my wife and son at home. The company provided me with food and accommodation, and I had 15 days of permission every 6 months to visit my family. During the first year, everything went well. Despite the distance, Jill and I were very close. It always motivated me to work harder to be able to take them to Chicago. I lived in a dormitory provided by the company. Although the factory was located on the outskirts, it was still expensive to bring the family here. We both knew it was a long trip, but we hoped to live together soon. After my long hours of work, talking to Jill was the only thing that kept me fresh and going. Things began to change after my last visit to the house. 6 or 7 months ago, Jill got a job in an emerging company. I did not notice any obvious change, except that she was not available to me every day. It was understandable. Before she was a housewife, so she could make time for me every time she called. Now, with her job, this was unrealistic to expect. However, I noticed some changes in her when I went home during my last vacation. She was too busy with her mobile phone. She did not speak freely and felt that she was careful with everything she said. This was not the case before. Yes, before, when she started her job, she had problems with her boss. She is a secretary in the office of a CEO. She works for a startup run by young graduates from the university who are very rude to their employees. Jill could not stand the harshness and resigned after a few months. After her resignation and her extensive email about a toxic work environment, her CEO called her again, promising to change her attitude. Many employees were leaving the company due to her bad behavior. Her income was a mattress for us. She used to save most of it because I covered all the expenses of the home despite her work. This accelerated our process of living together. She withdrew her resignation and reunited. Things improved for her and she told me that her boss was now much more polite and respectful. It seemed that everything was resolved. Let's move quickly to 3 months ago. Jill told me that her boss, the CEO, was going to a 5-day investor summit in Dublin and wanted Jill to accompany him. At first she rejected him because she could not leave our son alone for 5 days, but her boss offered to let our son accompany them in charge of the company. Honestly, I have no idea how these corporate companies operate. How can they afford to spend so much on unnecessary things like this type of trip? But anyway, I left it to Jill's decision. She said it was important for her career and it was. It may sound possessive, but I felt uncomfortable with her trip, but I didn't say anything. She called me regularly and kept me informed during the trip. I made daily video calls with my son and we also did it during the trip. I was very excited to visit a new place. It was the first time I left Houston. Over time, I calmed down. There was no obvious change in Jill after the trip, nothing of what I read in the confessions here. How to ignore me or get cold, etc. However, I wouldn't be writing this if I hadn't come home last month. I didn't give her the exact date of my visit. I wanted to surprise her. I had done it before too, but this time I was more surprised than happy to see myself at the door. Her face didn't light up when she saw me. She was dark, although she pretended to be excited, but you can notice this subtle change in your partner. Then she was very careful with her phone and in general with herself. When you meet your partner again after 6 months, you obviously want intimacy. Every time she used to throw herself on me the same night of my visit, but this time, she seemed reluctant. I asked her what was going on. She said nothing. She behaved like a virgin schoolgirl, feeling careful with herself and without taking any initiative. I don't know, I felt that she was afraid that she would discover something. I reproached her, but she didn't recognize that there was something unusual. At least in the following days she returned to normal. I'm not very proud to say this, but I whined on her phone that same night after she went to sleep. No, there was nothing. The conversations with her boss had nothing except topics related to work. There were no suspicious phone calls and the gallery was clean. When I was out for work, I asked my son the details about the trip to Dublin and nothing came out of there either. I returned to work after the holidays, happy and satisfied. A week ago, Gil told me again that he was going on a 2-day work trip with his boss to Florida, and this time without our son. He has exams that he cannot miss, so he will live with my in-laws those 2 days. I don't know guys if I'm being an idiot here, but I really don't have a good feeling about all this. I asked him who was going. He said only she and her boss. His company has 2 founders, but she always goes with only one of them each time. I find it very strange. I don't know if I'm being an idiot when I suspect her, but I just don't want to ignore the alarm signals from the beginning and be fooled. Has anyone been in this situation before? Any advice or suggestion is appreciated. Update 1. Hello everyone, it's been a long time since my last post. I connected with many men who were deployed outside their hometown, who faced a similar situation. Looking at my circumstances, most of them suggested that I give Gil the benefit of the doubt, because I couldn't find substantial evidence to suggest that he was cheating on me. I did that. After her trip to Dublin and Florida, she made many more work trips to cities like Amsterdam and Seattle. Surprisingly, never to Chicago, where I live. A month ago, I got my second promotion, a long-awaited one with a substantial increase. I was so excited when it was announced. Immediately, I called Gil and told him about this. But his reaction was far from being happy. And you know why? Because this meant that she and my son could move in with me. He said he was waiting for a promotion and had made a lot of effort to make a name for himself in the company. And now he couldn't leave her without a promotion. It didn't seem right to me because he was resisting a lot. I mean, if I had the opportunity, I would definitely have left my job to live with my family. His salary was a quarter of mine and I could have easily gotten a job that paid the same here. But I wasn't willing to leave his job. This led to several fights and discussions between us, but she changed her mind about our son, saying that his school and study plan would be interrupted. My son is a football enthusiast and has been training at a community club. I assured him that he would find a good training club here, but she resisted, saying that moving here would mean a complete interruption in our son's life. Some of her reasons made sense, but I felt that she never wanted to share a house with me. Finally, we came to the conclusion that we would wait another year. We would save a little more money and then we would think about this decision. 2 or 3 months later, Gil tells me that he wants to move to Chicago with me. I asked him what happened all of a sudden. He said that he simply changed his mind and our son needed me. A few months ago, when we were fighting over this, he reasoned that we should not interrupt our son's study plan. At that time, the academic year of our son's class had just ended, and it would have been easier for us to enroll him in a new school in Chicago. Now his new academic session has begun and it would be very difficult to enroll him in half a year. I told him to wait for this year and they could come next year, but he became stubborn about living together. I asked him about his job and he said he was ready to quit his job. Family is more important than anything else. I really don't know what is driving this change in her, but I definitely suspect something strange. It has even reached the point where she is willing to delay our son's academic session for a year. I discussed this with some of my local colleagues here, and they assured me that they would help me enroll my son in half a year. I am planning everything else to bring them here with me. The house, the car, the school, etc. But in the depths of my being I feel that she is not doing this for me. There is something else. I will update the thread if I am successful in discovering the truth. Otherwise, it could be just my excess of thoughts. Update 2. Hello everyone. It turns out that my wife was really cheating on me and I discovered everything when she moved to Chicago with me. As I mentioned in my last update, she suddenly told me that she wanted to move in with me and that she was ready to quit her job. I was both happy and suspicious about everything, but I made all the arrangements for them. My cousin, who recommended me for this job, helped me enroll my son in the same academic year. She also helped me get an affordable rental apartment. So Jill and my son moved in with me and I couldn't be happier. All the suspicions and doubts I had in my mind disappeared when we started living together. It was a happy time. However, over time, I realized that Jill was not the same woman I married. Yes, time changes us all, but it was not a positive change. It became abrupt and cautious. Every time I confronted her, she said that she missed our hometown, friends, and family there. I also lived far from my family for a long time. Somehow, I empathized with her, but one night I found her crying on the phone. I listened to the conversation and realized that she was begging someone to accept her again. So, instead of hiding or investigating something, I simply confronted her after the call ended. Yes, I heard everything and it was quite clear. I'm glad she didn't lie or manipulate the situation. She confessed everything. It turns out that her young boss slept with her, literally. It started on her first trip to Dublin. After a successful investment deal, they were so happy and drunk that they lost control and did it. After that, they did it every night after our son fell asleep. This disgusted me so much that I wanted to hit her at that moment. They continued doing it even after the trip and in each business trip they did together. It was more of a pleasure trip. That was the reason why I didn't want to leave her job. However, when she told her boss that I wanted her to be here with me, but she had refused him, she got scared and told him that their relationship was not serious. She asked him to prioritize his family over him. She went crazy. Although she knew it was just for fun, somewhere she felt hurt that he was not as involved as she was. She even showed him the woman she was dating. So Jill was basically his sex toy. Isn't it obvious? He didn't think about marrying her or taking her seriously. I don't know what he was thinking before exchanging his marriage for cheap sex. When the CEO did not correspond to Jill's feelings, she got angry and quit the job. This time he didn't even bother to ask her why and released her. It seemed that he desperately wanted to get rid of her and her resignation made things easier for him. She thought he would beg him to stay. Why would he do it? He is the owner of the company. Can he have many girls waiting for him? Why would he run after her? Jill was an easy source of entertainment for him and he exploded her. She was a fool to take him seriously. Now, she is calling and begging him to accept her again and he is asking her to move on. I was amazed to see that she was ready to be his lover. I was telling him on the phone. I asked him how he could maintain this infidelity for so long. He said that their conversations were face to face and they worked in the same office for 8 or 10 hours a day. It made sense. That was the reason why I couldn't find anything on his phone. I didn't send him messages or call him during my 15-day visit home. They were together half the day. Why did they need to talk on the phone? Anyway, his boss was not emotionally involved with her, so it was not necessary to talk. He wanted action and she gave him, in his office. Yes, he told me. They had regular sexual relations in his office, closing the doors and turning off the camera. The revelation made me feel so overwhelmed. I asked him to leave me alone. It was morning when our confrontation ended. I slept all day. When I woke up in the afternoon, I saw that he had prepared my favorite food. He acted so normal and said that we could start again. I told him that no way. I was here, working hard day and night for a better life for my family. And she was there, lying down with her ugliness. She acted surprised when I mentioned the word divorce. It was like, how can you do this to me? I left everything for you. I was by your side in the difficult days when you had nothing and now you are earning well. How can you leave me? She supported me in moments of anguish, but she also failed and deceived me. I also did my part of being a good husband. The long distance was also difficult for me. I also longed for family and sexual life. But I didn't choose infidelity. She did. She kept apologizing and making all kinds of promises, but I didn't back down. I told her that I was going to book tickets for her return and would send the divorce papers soon. Thank God, I had a preliminary agreement with her that will save me a lot details for the next update. Currently, I am not in a stable mental state. I left the house and have been living in the company's residence. I will make the last update after solving this mess. Update 3. Hello everyone. Thanks for all the support. Some people commented that I overlooked the warning signs, and that wives cheat in long-distance relationships. I didn't take this as an offense, but guys, I was alert from the beginning. I noticed the slightest change in her behavior and discussed it openly. I called her every day and had transparent conversations from time to time. I even checked her phone every time I visited the house. I don't know what else I should have done to avoid infidelity. So yes, the divorce proceedings have begun. I had booked the tickets for them to return home. My son is too young to live alone without his mother, and with my job situation, it is not possible for me to take care of him. Also, he was away from me for many years. It is not the best thing to have him with me. I hope that, when he grows up and understands things, he will understand me. Gil begged me that he had lost everything and had no means to live on his own. I offered to let her stay at home until she returned to our hometown. We had a prenuptial agreement that prevents her from claiming my property in a divorce derived from infidelity. So she can't stay with my house. I accepted the food pension for my son, so she doesn't get anything from the divorce. Even after moving to Houston again, she kept contacting me, asking for one last chance to fix our relationship. I had the hope that I would forgive her for the good of our son. Now, yes, people do that. They forgive their unfaithful partner for the good of their children. Call me selfish or whatever. I was not willing to accept her again just to give my son a false illusion of a happy marriage. Finally, after many disputes, the divorce ended. She left without anything. She lost her job. Her boss did not give good comments on her resignation letter. He mentioned that she was inconsistent and gave up the first signal for no reason. She left twice for no reason, so she is not receiving offers from good companies. In addition, the market condition of the corporate industry has not been good during the last year. Sometimes she sends me voice messages saying that I have ruined her life. I don't care. I have not blocked her either. I want her to know that I listen to everything she says, but even so, I am not moved by her misery. I want her to know that I no longer love her.